Are early non-turbo 300Ds a good alternative to a 300D turbo? Let's face it, 300D turbos are getting expensive. A really good one now is somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000, and there just aren't enough of them to meet demand. People really want them. Now, some people still get lucky and pay $5,000 or $6,000 for one if, you know, they're really astute and they beat everybody else to the Craigslist ad or the Facebook ad. But for the most part, people are paying dearly to get these. And so now I'm getting a lot of people who are looking at the 77 to 79 300D non-turbo, the 80 and 81 300D non-turbo, and we're going to talk about some of the pros and cons of these cars, or more of what I like to think of as the drawbacks to getting one of these instead of a turbo diesel. Now, these are good cars. They're still very analog. They perform reasonably. They're not fast, but they're not super underpowered if their engines are healthy. But there are some issues that these cars have that I feel that the majority of Mercedes owners need to be aware of. So the first issue is that cylinder number 1 on these cars could starve for oil if they were not well maintained. Cylinder number 1 on these cars and the corresponding number 1 connecting rod was the last one to receive engine oil supply. So therefore it's the first one to fail if the oil level gets low or extremely sludgy. Now on these motors, to check for any problems, I like to pull the lower oil pan, which you may or may not be able to do, and look for crankshaft bearing material or rod bearing material in the oil pan. I also like to do a compression test because it seems like cylinder number 5 in these cars has a tendency to read low. Now remember, with any compression test, 3 criteria need to be met. Number 1, you can't just use any tester. You need to use a good proven diesel tester. I use a motometer. You can also use something from Mac Tools or something like that. Another tool that I like to have, by the way, when I do this is a glow plug reamer to try to get all the carbon out of the glow plug hole in the pre-chamber. Now, the second thing is that you need to have an engine with a good proper valve adjustment. You can't just have valves that have been not adjusted for 25 years. The next thing that you need is a set of well, either a good strong battery in a jump box or a set of jumper cables and a good strong battery, because you need to turn the engine over fast. I also recommend, but not necessarily, pulling all the injectors out for your test. So going back to what we were talking about, the last thing you need on these cars is oil consumption data. You need to do this to make sure that the car you have isn't an oil drinker that is a worn out engine. These cars can be really miserable to start, and they can be really miserable to drive when their engines are worn out. When the engines are worn out, they don't have very good off-the-line power. They make a ton of blow-by, and in cold weather they can be a nightmare to start. It can also mean that throwing a connecting rod out of the engine block is a looming danger that you may not be able to get away from. Now, these cars also have a second flaw that I warn people about, and that's their climate control. The automatic climate control system and corresponding servo were used from 77 to 80, and then in 81 the system was not used anymore. So if you must get a non-turbo, I think an 81 is a great alternative. All of the station wagon versions, though, use this item because in 1981 they went to the turbo diesel engine in the wagon, and apart from a batch of 300 coupes, same for the coupes. Now, what do I think of some other aspects of these cars? Well, the big glow plug engines, the earliest iterations had the big glow plug engines, and that was all the way up to August of 79. Starting in March of 79, production of the AC compressor switched to the R4 rotary compressor. The previous versions used the York compressor, which is a good, reliable compressor that makes a lot of cold air, but it can be tricky to service. Versions of the R4 compressor are a little bit lighter and are technically easier to get service for with the air and parts for with the AC, but you know, I'm not picky about either system. I just prefer the layout of the March of '79 and later cars because they're much easier to work on. Cars with the York compressor also have a skinny 10mm alternator belt and an early style toothed alternator bracket. These can be difficult to deal with if they break, particularly if you have to keep adjusting the belt. On these early cars, these March of '79 and earlier cars, it is imperative that the belts used are Mercedes Benz genuine belts. They're the only ones that perform reliably. Now, some of the other things about these cars that I dislike are that the interiors are not as hard wearing. The horsehair or the palm fiber of the seats breaks down. The dashboards are more sensitive to cracking. You know, you see issues with sun visors going baggy. You see problems with more corrosion problems than you would on the later cars. And the front fenders are glued on, so good luck taking them off. It's difficult. I would recommend a really good, clean, low mileage 300D turbo from this era, but just because a car has, let's say, 100,000 miles on it doesn't exempt it from having a compression test. Compression test is a very important thing in this type of car, and you should always get one unless you're dealing with like a 30,000 mile garage queen, so don't think you're exempt. I think that these cars are good, but they need to be purchased at a significant discount over a turbo diesel to make it worth it, because you're going to be spending a lot more money sorting out the climate control and possibly dealing with any mechanical issues in the future. Although I will stress that if you do your due diligence, you will end up with a good car. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and give it a thumbs up if you felt that it conveyed useful information. If you're looking at any Classic Mercedes 123 series, remember that these are all good cars. They were all designed and built to a high standard. But the earlier cars do live in the shadow of the later cars, whether it's a 240D or a 300D turbo. Enjoy your hunt for your next Classic Mercedes, and if you're supporting us on Patreon, thank you so much. We look forward to hearing from you in the future with your inquiries about all the things Mercedes, especially if you have questions about a car you're buying. Thank you so much, and enjoy your 123 or your Mercedes diesel.